Alright guys, this is Module 3, Lesson 7. Today we are going to be using the read, draw, write strategy to answer a two-step number problem with fractions. Before we get to that number problem though, we do have our warm-up this morning, which is on reducing fractions. I've noticed this is something that we've been struggling with, so I want to take some time working on it this morning. So to reduce a fraction, you always want to see what number can go into both the numerator and the denominator. And then how many times can that number go into both? Now my tip is that you always want to see if your numerator and denominator are even, because if they're even, we know for a fact 2 goes into any even number. So if one of your numbers ends in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0, it's automatically able to be reduced by 2. So I have, let me see here, I just need to get rid of that. Oops, I don't want to do that. Oh, I'm sorry guys, give me just a second here. There we go. I have 3 fractions that I want to reduce, 2 sixths, 4 tenths, and 8 24ths. I'm going to have you guys pause the video. I want you to go through, I want you to reduce these fractions, and then hit play, and I'll go over the answers with you. Okay guys, so we're going to go through and we're going to reduce these fractions together. So I said earlier that if the numerator and denominator are even, then that means 2 can go into both of those. I know 2 can go into 2 one time, and I know that 2 can go into 6 3 times. So my reduced fraction is 1/3. And now that is the smallest form because nothing can go into 1 that can also go into 3. Okay? Jumping down here and looking at number 2, I have 4 tenths. Well, I know those are both even as well. What can go into 4 that can also go into 10? I know it's 2 can go into there. So I'm going to say 2 can go into 4 2 times. And 2 can go into 10 5 times. So that means that our reduced fraction is 2 fifths. 2 fifths. Okay? Again, nothing can go into 2 that can also go into 5, so I know that is my smallest form. Now diving down here looking at 8 24ths, I'm going to do the same process. 2 can go into 8 4 times, and 2 can go into 24 12 times. So that's going to be my new fraction, 4 12ths. But I can actually reduce that some more because these are both even numbers as well. So I can say that 2 can go into 4 and 2 can also go into 12. 2 can go into 4 2 times, and 2 can go into 12 6 times. So my new answer is 2 sixths. Well, I can go one step further. Again, 2 can go into 2 one time, and 2 can go into 6 3 times. So I know that my final reduced answer is 1/3. Now, if you wanted to skip all these middle steps and you said to yourself, Mrs. Duncan, I know 8 can go into itself once and 8 can go into 24 3 times. Why can't I just skip all these steps and say the final answer is 1/3? That's totally fine. If that's something that you want to do, go for it. It just kind of helps as we're getting used to this process that whenever you see 2 even numbers, it's automatically able to be reduced by 2. But if you are able to identify those number relations, feel free and go ahead to skip those steps and get to the smallest form. All right, so that was our warm-up problem for today. Now we're going to jump on down and we are going to work on our two-step number story problems. So all of our number stories today, you have a couple for your worksheet. All of your number stories for today are 2 steps, and they're all dealing with fractions. Oh, excuse me. It's too early in the morning for me without a lot of coffee yet. So, looking at our number story problem, we're going to be using the read, draw, write strategy. So I'm going to call it the RDW. RDW. We're going to read the story problem, we're going to draw out a model, and then we're going to write our work down. So our story problem today is George weeded a fifth of his garden, and Summer weeded some too. When they were finished, 2/3 of the garden still needed to be weeded. What fraction of the garden did Summer weed? So as I read that, I circled the important information, or I circled the numbers and I highlighted the important information. Now now I already went ahead and I drew out, so I've done the reading. Now I'm going to draw out the model that represents this particular story problem. Well, I'm going to say that this whole rectangle that I have right here, this whole thing, this represents one whole garden. Okay, this is the entire garden that Summer and George spent the day weeding. Okay, well, I know that George weeded 1/5 of it. I got that information from the problem. I know that Summer weeded some, but we don't know how much she weeded. So I put a question mark under the portion that she weeded. But then I know left over, they have 2/3 of the garden left to do. What they're asking me to figure out is they're asking me, how much did Summer weed? Well, I know that if I add all 3 of these up, I'm going to get one whole because they only had one whole garden. Okay? So in order to figure out what Summer weeded, I'm going to add together what George weeded and what was left over. Then I'm going to take that number and I'm going to subtract it from one whole because one whole minus what George weeded and what was left over is going to get me what Summer weeded. Okay? So I'm going to set up my problem and I'm going to say 1/5 plus 2/3. I got to figure out what George weeded and what left over is combined. So I got to figure out what this is right here. Okay? So I'm going to do 1/5 plus 2/3. Okay? And I'm going to do butterfly method because I am adding fractions with unlike denominators. Start with the bottom. 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, 15, 15. Now I'm going to do my left wing. That always goes first. 1 and 3. That's going to get me 3. Then I'm going to do my right wing. Oh, I want to pick a different color. My right wing is 5 and 2. 5 and 2 is 10. Okay. Now I want to do the body of my butterfly. The body of my butterfly, because students always forget that and they forget what operation they're working with. So I'm doing addition. So I know that my denominator is going to be 15 and my numerator is going to be 13. So that together, let me see if I can scroll down a little bit here. So that together, George and what's left over added up is equal to 13/15. I got that by just adding together what George weeded and what was left over. Now I know that this, in addition to what Summer weeded, is going to get me one whole. So I'm going to take one whole and I'm going to subtract 13/15 from it. Okay, because that's going to get me what Summer weeded. So I have one whole minus 13/15. Well, I know that I can do this mentally. 1 minus 13/15. If I wanted to, I know that 15/15 is equal to one whole. So 13/15 plus 2 more 15ths is going to get me one whole. So 1 minus 13/15, I have 2 15ths left over. Because 2 15ths plus 3 15ths would get me 15 15ths, which is equal to 1. So I've done my reading, I did my drawing, I did my writing, and my final answer is Summer weeded 2 15ths of the garden. I got that by adding together what George weeded and what was left over, and I subtracted it from one whole. These problems are not easy. They take some time. I had students yesterday working on these on Zern, and they were like, well, do I add? Do I subtract? What do I do? There's a couple of different things you're going to do. You're not going to get the answer right away. It's going to take a few different steps, and everyone's a little different. Let me jump over to I have the worksheet for today. Let me show you that. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Okay, so this is your guys' worksheet that goes with this lesson today. I only gave you 2. So again, you're going to click the line, you're going to click scribble right there to work on these. It says Tiffany bought 2/5 kegs of cherries, or kilograms of cherries. Linda bought I'm sorry, I'm just going to start that over. I'm butchering that. Tiffany bought 2/5 kilograms of cherries. Linda bought 1/10 kilograms of cherries less than Tiffany. How many kilograms of cherries did they buy all together? Okay, so Tiffany bought 2/5. Linda bought 1/10 less than 2/5. That less than should tell you what to do with that 2/5 and 1/10. Then you're going to figure out how much Linda bought. Then you're going to add what Linda bought to what Tiffany bought to figure out how much they bought all together. 4. Mr. Rivas bought a can of paint. He used 3/8 of it to paint a bookshelf. He used 1/4 of it to paint a wagon. He used some of it to paint a birdhouse and has 1/8 of the paint left. How much paint did he use for the birdhouse? I suggest you using the box read, draw, write strategy, one whole can of paint, and separate it just like what we did with George in summer and what was left over, and partitioning it with the different numbers that are given to you here. If you have questions, let me know. These are not easy. They take some time, but let me know if I can help in any way, and I will certainly do that. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day.